It's like playing with a new tool. Imagine that something came out of the fourth dimension and someone said, play with this. You're like, what the hell? I can't even see it.
Most AI implementations I've seen fail for the same reasons. Teams treat models like APIs. They integrate foundation models into their legacy code base, and they wonder why they're not seeing the transformation. Here's what Oji Udezue, after a career building products at Microsoft and Twitter, Calendly, built at Formless.
And really, what languages are is they implement algorithms and behaviors. And if you really x-ray them, a lot of them are just condition handling, right? The core is very small, and then the rest is handling your input and output, making that all very bulletproof. So a lot of if-then statements. AI at the core is when you build with your model at the core, when like more than 50% of your code base is model-based.
When more than 50% of your code base becomes model-based, you're not enhancing software anymore. You're building with a new material. Traditional code is deterministic, versioned, testable. Models are probabilistic, fluid, hard to understand. The companies achieving increased velocity and unexpected innovations are those designing for non-determinism.
Right? And at Typeform, we try to do that with Formless. It was all model, because what models are essentially is a large block of code you can direct, right? Versus you need to write, because it knows the world so well that all the if-then statements are built into it already. And you just need to give it a few instructions for it to work for you.
Let's look at what Oji just said, because it's important. Until now, we've been writing explicit instructions. If this, then that. But foundation models create these statements implicitly. They've absorbed the patterns from billions of examples. When you prompt a model, you're not calling a function, you're describing a desired outcome. The question is how best to transition from deterministic execution to probabilistic reasoning.
I realized very early on that prompts were code, right? And I think there are products now that will help you version prompts, but we had to version it ourselves. And there are very many subtle problems, like how do you price for tokens? It's very different from pricing for access or data. How do you deal with like undeterministic output from these models? Because you can ask it the same thing for 10 different people and you get different answers. Why? Right? And so on. And, code has been very deterministic for a long time. So this is a model people don't fully understand, is inherent undeterminism. Formless is basically the new Typeform, right? What Formless does is that it basically allows a creator to just use an AI to ask questions in the voice and the form that the other person wants. You specify the tone of voice. Here I say witty. You can ask it to talk like a pirate. You specify details about the welcome screen. And as you change, it updates. This is, by the way, courtesy of David Okunev, who's the founder of Typeform. He actually built this. I was chief product officer, but he was a creative mind. So yeah, you just tell it what it needs to know. You give it its own little brain, its little library beyond the model. And you're off to the races. You've created a form. And this is an infinitely personalizable form. If I start to talk to it, this is it. This is the interface, right?
Whilst it looks familiar, this is a very different type of application. Formless isn't using AI to fill form fields faster. It's replacing the form entirely with conversational intelligence that's maintaining the conversation to get closer to the form owner's aims.
What happens is we take this text stream, and actually one of the good things David did was to turn this into actual hard data that can be fit into rows. But it knows when you answer the question and when you don't, so it can ignore a bunch of stuff. It's persistent. It's like a guard dog. It'll have a nice conversation with you, but there's steel behind it. It still wants to get the answer that the person its creator made, and so it'll flow like water around the user.
But here's the cost. With Formless, Typeform traded precision for personalization, predictability for adaptability. A QA will struggle to write tests for infinite variations. A PM can't spec every possible conversational path. And that is why a lot of current implementations fail. They're trying to add deterministic thinking to a probabilistic system.
So people have really a clear choice. If your product is making you millions of dollars, you don't want to junk that. It took you 10 years to get here. And so what you're going to be tempted to do is to sprinkle AI into it, right? Now you can do it well or badly, right? Like very last couple of years, a lot of it is bad. It's like it's pointless AI. Do not just sprinkle AI in your old code base. If you do that, you'll eventually lose. Or people have to chart a course between the old code base and the new. At Typeform, what I tried to do was add AI to the old thing, but start to imagine the new thing, right, at the core.
Here's what that means for your next architecture decision. When Oji says more than 50% of your code base should be model-based, he's describing a specific threshold where traditional testing, versioning, and deployment practices break down. You'll need prompt version controls. You'll need price for tokens instead of API calls. You'll need to handle non-deterministic outputs in your test suite. This isn't about adding ChatGPT to your app. It's about rebuilding your entire stack around probabilistic intelligence.
I have seen more AI companies fail than succeed, actually, except the ones who are hypey and they just raise money on hype. But it's hard. But people should aspire to do this. If they don't, we will lose.